Kevin Benedict, Senior Analyst for Digital Transformation and Mobility here at Cognizant. I want to thank you for joining us today. This is part three of an awesome segment that we ran with SmartStory's CEO and founder, Michael Boerner. In section one, we talked about code halos, big data, point-of-sale systems, and retail consumer experiences all packaged together in a hyper-personalized environment. In number two, we talked about the application of that, the tactical application of those strategies in retail pharmacy. In this segment, part three, we're talking about business models. How do companies that use these strategies benefit? How do the customers benefit? All the stakeholders, how do they benefit? And then we move to the next step, the economic benefit and the financial benefit that startups get by implementing code halo strategies. Fascinating discussion. I hope you join us. Talk to me about all the stakeholders and kind of the value each of the stakeholders might get out of that.
Sure. Well, the stakeholders, there are a number of them, but one of the greatest ways we can serve the retail pharmacy client is to give them a new way to add value to the customer experience. Mm-hmm. What's the next generation customer experience? Because I can tell you, this is not the one most of us are expecting.
Yes.
You know, this was what 1411 was the printing press. So we are here in 2014, 2015 in a position to be able to really help people, not only personalization, but make it easy for me to consume this content. And so now we can talk to them not only about their medication, we can give what we call our aim, our aspiration, inspiration, and motivation, but now we can also make product offers that are highly relevant to that particular use case. So again, like let's say I'm a new type 2 diabetic. Well, I need to understand what I need to know about a glucometer, about blood test strips. I need to understand glycemic safe foods. I need to figure out a new way to eat and all the recommendations that go with those things. So now all of a sudden I can trust the pharmacist who has one of the highest ratings in terms of reputation to help vet for me exactly what I need to know. And so by connecting pharma and health and wellness, we can now shift it over to things that I care about that aren't just in the pharmacy or a medical scenario, but in health and diet. Well, that, guess what, has a lot to do with the Krogers and the many other grocery store pharmacies in the world that can actually move you to the health and wellness items they have in their stores. So now all of a sudden the code halo connection is data-rich moment, and now we put people on a pathway of engagement that's long-term and immersive and 100% valuable and 100% relevant.
And it knows what that experience is, and it knows the location, knows the doctor, knows the insurance, all that kind of, so the hyper-personalization there. For any of you that aren't familiar with the concept of code halos are really your digital footprint or fingerprint, however you may want to describe it. Every swipe, every click, every mobile app that you download, all of this is both collecting and producing new data. And that data says a lot.
Well, that data is extraordinary. And the truth is, we want to trust who has the data. And we have wonderful laws around HIPAA privacy. Our technology operates inside of that umbrella. And so we're not introducing our brand, we're enabling the brands that already have the relationship from provider to patient. That's really important. But we provide really the platform, the ecosystem that has intelligent video delivery. It's not just video, it's also pre-rolls, post-rolls, links, PDFs. Here's a checklist of everything you need to bring home after coming to the hospital. You know, there's a number of ways to add value, not just the videos. But now all of a sudden you've got a way to have a platform that works 24/7, it's automated, and it blends two very important worlds. One is value-adding wisdom from trusted experts that are vetted, and e-commerce. Because I'll tell you, I really like the e-commerce engine that really knows who I am and offers me things that are highly relevant, because I don't want my time wasted. And this is the opportunity here for these retailers to be able to deal with, in many cases, tens, millions, even 100 million plus loyalty card members that they're really trying to serve. And so now, every day, automatically, one-to-one, there's this personal and refreshing engine that adds value and creates a tremendous way to carve out new economic.
And it's my trusted pharmacy. It's my trusted doctor giving me medicine, which is explained. It's connected into my wellness as an individual, as a person, with instructional information, etc. I can go back and look at it on my own time. And it's fed to my own personal mobile device.
Goes across any device. I can watch it on any device. It's trackable across devices. And of course, we use apps, but they're enterprise backends. And we can also continue to understand the data as they realize that engagement over time. we continue to deliver new content over time that changes based on their use case as well as based on their growth and change in their needs.
So let's focus on another area, another purpose kind of the book, Code Halos, which is how should businesses look at code halos and build the idea of a code halo strategy into their own business model and business plan. So I'm going to ask you as an entrepreneur and the founder of SmartStory, how do you see the application of code halos in your own business model?
Well, without the code halo, we wouldn't have a business model. Okay. This is our business model. Okay. These gentlemen who wrote this book really have reminded the modern business world that those who have worked in IT have a chance to innovate like no other time in history. And oftentimes, to be fair, IT often kind of gets well, those guys can sometimes be challenging, but you know what? They have one of the hardest jobs in a large enterprise infrastructure. Now the IT world actually should be driving much of the business strategy, because the ability to take what we have in front of us with data sets in the IT to create an engagement with customers at scale, because when you think about lowering cost and dramatically increasing customer engagement and creating new economic engines, I've never seen a time or a landscape where that has an opportunity to shift as much as it has now. There's an article in one of the trade magazines about Walgreens, and they actually measured when they added online and app-based engagement to their revenues, when they actually multiplied it out, it was 6 times more revenue than just someone coming into the store by themselves. Wow. So I called 2 different people that said, this can't be right. I'd be blown away by 2 times. 6 times? This doesn't even seem possible. But when you take the engagement in the app world and the online world, combining that together, you offer so much more value and you get rid of so much friction. I remember when iTunes finally came out, my purchases of records at record stores was X, but then I noticed in my Quicken, wow, I buy a lot more music because it's easy, it's simple. Well, the ability for the folks who lead IT to drive strategy using code halos to reimagine business opportunities are extraordinary. And in the book, they used a great example about how HBO was creating original content since the late 70s. Well, they didn't win their first Emmy until the 90s. But look what happened with Netflix. Within a year after them creating original content, they'd won, I think, 9 or 10 Emmy nominations.
And why is that?
Well, according to the guys of the book, which I would agree, the people at Netflix had the ability to look at the data. They could see exactly what the history of what was successful, what wasn't. They had a Code Halo data set like no one's ever seen before.
So the data was relevant to the user.
Unbelievably important.
The user experience is going to be just massively improved if it's about me.
So you're dealing with data-driven decision-making. You have an opportunity to do something never before possible. The question is, can you make it personalized at scale?
Yes.
There's a lot of discussion. You're in these discussions all the time about big data.
Yeah.
Well, unless it's meaningful, unless it can have an outcome that's actually measurable and something that's really important to an individualized level, I'm not sure big data is all that helpful unless you can really monetize it or add a value to the customer experience that's extraordinary. Well, that's exactly why we're in this space, in this business, because we need a way to intelligently organize our favorite medium and make it easy, make it fast, and make it highly profitable.
Wow. So let me ask you this. 5 years ago, there wasn't the same level of technology today. What technology is there today that makes this hyper-personalized experience with short-form video possible?
Well, people forget how recent this opportunity is. When we started back in 2006, there was no YouTube yet. That was a brand new concept that came out about mid-2006 when anyone knew what it was. The opportunity to actually summon video is such a recent phenomenon, and this mass consumer behavioral shift to the consumption of video just continues to look like a hockey stick. The problem with it is video is tough. Video is something you can't sift through as easily as text, and it's very difficult to actually make a lot of sense of it. And so when you think about the video possibilities connected to these smart devices that are extraordinarily fast, the ability to bring data inside of that experience, and also create a protected trust relationship with the consumer one-on-one, we have the ability to shift the literacy on any topic, if you think about it, in any environment you can imagine globally because of the languages. And if you think about someone's knowledge of their automotive, I mean, the new car purchase is like a driving iPad now. There's a lot of complexity in there, all the way to your consumer electronics, to your pet care, the finance industry, a lot of complexity. Well, what if we could bring the very best minds on each of these subjects and essentially let you take home the expert with you. And so any phase of the customer life cycle, we can utilize that data to really improve the pre-sale, post-sale, loyalty, renewal. There's a number of ways to utilize this data. But these companies, to think about the right way to get ahead and take advantage of the customer expectation to say, give me something meaningful that I can engage with your company at a far greater environment with. And then we shift from the page, when we call it episodic engagement, to a whole nother long-term immersive engagement we call Smart Path. And so let's say you just bought a new Windows 8 laptop.
Right.
I'm not sure you can learn that in 8 minutes.
Right.
Well, how do I learn how to use it more effectively? We came up with a technology we call Smart Path, and it's designed to do one primary thing. The farmers have been doing it for years. It's called a drip system. What if I could drip 2 minutes of video to you each day at the time you said, here's when I'd like it to come, because I know when my margins are in my day, and let's say at 6:58 a.m., I know I got a couple minutes.
I'll get my daily 2 minutes of what,
Exactly.
what's the latest tip on how to use my Windows.
And it comes to me effortlessly. The most important piece is I don't have to remember to come get it.
So would I get a message or an email? How does it work?
It's an alert, just much like a text. And so we built an enterprise platform that on the back end allows us to have any number of topics, but then it drips that content out to. Now you could watch them all in a row if you wanted to. It's kind of like a bookend for video, and the pages are about 2 minutes in length. And so this platform, SmartPath, has a promise of brevity, much like Twitter does. Everything's 180 seconds or less. So it's always brief, it's all curated. This allows you suddenly across any device, so if I watch it on a laptop, then a tablet, then an Android, then an iPhone, it knows it all the way across those screens. So now all of a sudden, if I want to learn about leadership, if I want to learn about my new smartphone, my new laptop, about my disease state, if I want to keep someone motivated relationally or in their health and wellness, now the stakeholders between the providers, the employers, the payers, the people who all care about these constituents that are moving through behavioral change. Now we've got an easy way to say, give me the medium I love in a way that I can easily consume it and keep me motivated and also gamified.
And based upon my code halos.
And those code halos continue to keep it relevant all the way throughout that continuum.
Oh, wow. So let's look at the IT. So there's broadband internet. So that's where you get the speed to do video.
That's the infrastructure that allows the application layer to work.
There's databases that are collecting data that allow me to trigger something that's going to hyper-personalize my experience. So there must be massive databases involved.
Correct. And most of those databases come from our clients.
Okay.
So it's databases that they already know. We just help them enable.
And within the pharmacy example, that's a point of sale kind of trigger that says, this particular person has this particular disease. Let's educate them on this path.
Correct. In the pharmacy world, the difference between POS and adjudication, it's all real time. The powerful thing about pharmacy is it's the most real-time information in all of healthcare.
Oh, wow. Because you just got it.
Well, if I'm diagnosed this morning by my doc as a new type 2 diabetic and say my A1C is 9, well, now I go into the pharmacy to pick up my pharmaceutical.
An hour later,
all of that data is connected because across the different silos of healthcare, that adjudication system, suddenly we know, the retail pharmacy knows, who your provider is, who your payer is, who your employer is, where you live, what your history is, what your gender is. All of this data is fresh.
So theoretically, there could be a huge library of educational videos, but the series of educational videos that I'm going to have dripped to me are based upon my data.
And they get delivered in real time.
Okay.
The sequencing comes basically directly against that data set. And of course, the page environment is all about you. It's all one for one. So that's what makes this feel extraordinarily personal. And again, I can't overemphasize the need for the compassion to be there, because an expert just talking is not engagement. We've invented a new methodology for engagement on virtually any subject. It's content agnostic. We need a new way to engage people over time that's easy, that's mobile enabled, that's very, very simple for us to consume, enjoy, because it's all relevant and it's all about me.
So Michael, the book, Code Halo.
Great book.
You've read it?
I recommend it.
And why would you recommend it? To what other business people out there that might be watching this right now, what value would they get in this book?
Well, for large companies especially, or any size company, if they don't understand what these gentlemen have written about in this book, they will potentially miss one of the greatest pivots, one of the greatest shifts in methodology in modern business, and the ability to take advantage of the data sets that not only the companies have inherent in them, but also the data they're collecting every day, and to turn it around into value. These guys have done an extraordinary job really talking about what they call it, the playbook for managers, to think about how to add value with this incredibly wonderful mine that we have called Code Halos. It's a phenomenal read.
Great. Well, Michael, I want to thank you so much for joining us, and I want to thank you for spending your time and learning with us. Thank you.